What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, and I'm back at y'all with another one. So yesterday I did a video, and I discussed with the WBO, World Boxing Organization, the statement that they made yesterday, claiming that if former WBO lightweight world champion superstar boxer KEYSHAWN the businessman Davis, who was 14 wins, no loss, no draw, 10 wins by way of knockout, doesn't fill the proper paperwork and the request to move up to 147, he will not be allowed to face off against undefeated first ballot Hall of Famer, 3-division world champion, former undisputed lightweight, former WBC junior welterweight, and reigning WBO welterweight world champion superstar boxer Devin the Dream Haney, who is 33 wins, no loss, no draw, 15 wins by way of knockout. With that said, the WBO made the statement that if KEYSHAWN don't put the request in and fill out the paperwork, fight can't happen. And they stated there's other people ahead of KEYSHAWN Davis in the rankings to get the fight with Devin Haney. So in other words, Devin Haney could fight KEYSHAWN, but it won't be sanctioned, and he run the risk of getting stripped of his belt. Also, shouts out to Tim Bradley, 2-division world champion, Hall of Fame superstar, retired boxer. I watched this video, and he was talking about the sanction bodies and the importance of them, and the young fighters denouncing them. Well, KEYSHAWN denounced the sanction body, said he's not interested in paying sanction fees, right? Now, I want to say this to what Tim Bradley was saying. Tim Bradley was saying these sanction bodies are important and they do a lot for the sport. Yeah, they are. And the history of the sport, they do mean something, for sure, 1,000%. You can't say they don't mean anything to the sport of boxing. They are very important to the sport of boxing, Tim. The problem with it is, at what cost? At some point in time, the fighters have to take a stand because they're getting ripped off. Yes, the history of the sanction bodies is rich. He said the WBC, better known as World Boxing Council, but WBC, right, has done a lot for the sport. Yes, but at what cost? They are still, at some point in time, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. To give you an example, law enforcement is necessary and important in communities. You need police officers, but that don't mean that the police officers should be able to abuse the citizens that they're supposed to protect. Do you have police officers that are great police officers and serve and protect? 1,000%. Do you have police officers that are corrupt? Yes. So you have to point out that they are corrupt. And you have to stand for something in order to correct the imbalance. There's an imbalance. Terrence Crawford having to pay $300,000 to one sanction body is utterly ridiculous. Shakur Stevenson having to pay $120,000 to a sanction body that he's not even fighting for is ridiculous. So yes, you do have to acknowledge the importance and the history of the sanction bodies. 1,000%. Are they important? 1,000%. Tim Bradley also stated that Shakur Stevenson, if the sanction bodies wasn't important, then Shakur Stevenson hasn't accomplished anything. He's recognized as a Hall of Famer and a 4-division champion because of him winning the sanction bodies. 1,000%. But that doesn't give the sanction bodies the right to rip them off. Nobody is saying you have to do away with the sanction bodies, but they have to make a correction. And if the fighters don't stand for something, and the fans don't stand for something, and the retired fighters don't stand for something, then you'll fall for anything. That means the sanction bodies will continue to get over. Nobody's saying they're not important. Nobody's saying that they are. Well, there is people that saying they're not important because, they outgrow the sanction bodies. Yeah, that is true. Like Floyd Mayweather. Belts don't matter. Manny Pacquiao. It doesn't. No. At what cost? Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford. Right? Terrence Crawford and Canelo could fight right now, and everybody's going to watch. Not because of the belts. The belts are an added bonus to what we already have. So to have to pay to be a champion is ridiculous. The amounts. Not only that, the corruption that they're doing. Dimitri Bivol was a champion for 48 hours before he got stripped of the WBC belt, and they handed it to David Benavidez. That ruins the history of the sport. Because David Benavidez is recognized as a 2-division champion, and he didn't beat the champion for the belt. And he's paying sanction fees. So Bivol had to pay sanction fees, Benavidez had to pay sanction fees, and they never fought. If the fighters don't stand for something to make a correction to what the sanction bodies are doing, then the sport is destroyed. Period. The sanction bodies have to make a correction and adjust how they're doing things to keep the history rich. You can't be out here charging Shakur Stevenson $120,000 out his purse and you have no involvement in the fight. That's ridiculous. Tim, you have to take this into consideration. Let's look at this from this standpoint. Imagine working a 9-to-5. I worked as a surgical tech in the operating room for 17 years. So imagine working in the operating room. I go and work at another hospital part-time, and then I have to pay my number one job fees for working at that hospital. What? They have nothing to do with that. Why would I have to pay this hospital for me giving this hospital my hard-earned time? Make that make sense. And not just a little bit, but a major portion of it. It's ridiculous. So, back to regularly scheduled programming, KEYSHAWN Davis denouncing the sanction bodies just means that the fight with him and Devin Haney more than likely is not going to happen unless the WBO gives Devin Haney a pardon, and it seems like they're not interested in doing so. Now, Devin Haney could be unifying the belts against Mario Barrios in his next fight. That could be possible. This is ridiculous, these sanction bodies. It's ridiculous, man. So let's see how this unfolds, but it looks like it's going to be bleak because Devin Haney wants to become undisputed in this division. The sanction body, the belts matter. But at some point in time, you got to stand for something. You can't keep letting them rip off the sport, period. And if they did a lot for the sport, point us in a direction that globally we could see all the things they have done in the sport of boxing. Because Andre Ward is so confused as to what exactly do they do? Where's the money going? They just created a new pendant, WBC pendant, that's worth $20,000 or something dollars. The fighters ain't asking for that. What about insurance, health insurance, retirement insurance? That should be guaranteed health insurance, retirement insurance. If that money goes to that, it make more sense. But it don't. Helping out a fighter here and there because you have a relationship with them is not universally help to every fighter that participates in the sport of boxing. Period. And that's all I got for y'all. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. I'm gone. Peace.